Hi everyone, my name is Miss Ibarra, and today we're going to be reading a book titled Other Words for Home. It's written by Jasmine Warga. This story is about a girl who has to leave her home in Syria and move to America. So let's go ahead and read and look into her story. It is almost summer, and everywhere smells like fish, except for right down by the sea, where if you hold your nose just right, you can smell the sprawling jasmine and the salt water instead. In the summer, I always hold my nose to avoid the stench of fish and tourists that smell like hairspray and money and French perfume. The tourists come from Damascus and Aleppo, sometimes even Beirut and Amman. Once I met a man all the way from Doha. I asked him about the big skyscrapers that I have heard reach all the way up to the heavens, but Baba hushed me quiet before the man could answer me. Baba does not like for me to talk to tourists, strangers, men. He does not want me to talk to anyone that I do not know, and even people that I do know, he always says, Jude, sketty. And so I bite my tongue, and it sometimes tastes even worse than the way those summer fish smell. Everyone is saying that there will be fewer visitors from Aleppo this year, that there is no one left in Aleppo to come, that everyone who could leave Aleppo already has. When I ask Mama if this is true, she says, Jude, sketty. Our city does not look like what they show on TV of Syria. I remember the first time Fatima and I saw a story about Aleppo on the news. We felt proud. I know this is strange to say, childish maybe. I felt strange even then, but it also felt like the rest of the world saw me. But our city does not look like Aleppo, before or after. It is not sprawling and noisy with buildings pressed up against one another, like they are crammed together in an elevator with no room to breathe. Our city is on the sea. It sits below the mountains. It is where the rest of Syria comes when they want to breathe. No one is going to come this year, Fatima says. And I wonder if that is because there is no one left who needs to breathe. Fatima is 24 days, 6 hours, and 11 minutes older than me. She did the math. Fatima hates math, but loves when she comes out on top. We have always been friends. Mama and Aunt Amal have known each other since they were girls. We live across the courtyard from them, and sometimes when I was little, I would squeeze my eyes shut at night and pretend that Fatima and I were dreaming the same dream. When I was little, it was easy to imagine that. Fatima and were always in step, 4 feet pointed in the same direction, but the last few months have been different. Fatima feels kilometers ahead of me now. Her dark curls aren't on display anymore, tumbling to her shoulders in unruly waves that remind me of laughter. Her head is wrapped in silk scarves that are bright and colored like jewels. She is one of the first girls in our grade to cover. Fatima and I almost always have our astronaut together. Either Mama makes it or Auntie Amal. Fatima likes to have black olives, green and black, so fat that you can stick your fingers inside of them and eat them one by one. I think olives taste like the sea, and all that salt makes me dizzy. I eat the jebne and the bread that Mama gets from Hiba's bakery around the corner because she knows it's my favorite. Hiba makes her bread as fluffy as a pillow. I eat so much of it that Mama always has to remind me that astronie is supposed to help me last until dinner, but is not dinner. During astronie, we drink tea. Or Fatima drinks tea, and I drink sugar and mint with a side of tea. We watch old American movies that we bought with our aid and birthday money. We watch Julia Roberts fall in love, and we watch Sandra Bullock track down criminals, and we watch Reese Witherspoon go to law school. Fatima and I both want to be movie stars. Fatima also wants to be a doctor, but I only want to be a movie star. The wanting pulses so hard in my chest that it sometimes hurts. My older brother Issa used to watch the movies with us. He would sometimes even act them out with us, standing up on the couch imitating Reese's way of speaking English, all slow and sugary. He used to, until one day Baba came home from work early and walked in on us acting out the movies. Baba didn't say anything, not even Jude Sketty. He didn't even look at me, only at Issa. He shook his head and walked into his bedroom. Fatima and I like to find bits and pieces of ourselves in the faces of movie stars. We have decided that Fatima has Sandra Bullock's dark eyes that are so expressive you could tell if she was laughing, even if her mouth was covered. Speaking of mouths, I have one, and it is big. Like Julia Roberts, at least that's what I tell myself. Someday, I hope I will be a movie star and some other little girl will look at me and say, I have her eyes, her nose, her hair, her laugh, and she will feel beautiful. Maybe someday Julia Roberts will see me and think I have her mouth. I am walking down by the shore with my favorite person in the whole world, my older brother Issa. We are strolling down the stretch of beach that is open to everyone. Only people who, like Issa and me, have always lived here walk on this beach. Only people who don't have piles and piles of money walk on this beach. Soon we will be able to walk anywhere we want, Issa says. Things are going to change. I follow his eyes to the other side of the beach, where there are plush white chairs shaded by white and blue striped canopies. The chairs sit empty, but they are not open. The salty wind is whipping through Issa's dark hair, and he is wearing his serious face. His serious face is new. Issa used to love to sing American pop songs with me and Fatima at the top of his lungs. He knew every word of Madonna, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey. Now he knows other words like revolution, democracy, and change, change, change. He is always talking about change. My feet sink into the sand and I realize I do not want things to change. I want things to go back to the way they were, which I guess is another sort of changing, but it is not what Issa is talking about. The sky is melting overhead. The sun, like my feet, is sinking lower and lower. Swirls of yellows and dusty pinks. Are you coming to dinner? It still feels strange to ask my brother this question. His presence at Gaddah used to be as certain as the sunset. But now that has also changed. Issa's face switches again, from serious to sorry, and I know he isn't coming. I'm meeting Saeed and Yasmin, he says. And Baba would tell you that my brother and his friends are plotting revolution. Our Baba is furious that Issa goes to these meetings. He calls them treasonous. And Issa says that it is our president, Bashar al Assad, who is treasonous, who is oppressing his own people. Issa shouts at Baba about free elections and real democracy and unlawful use of force. And Baba shouts about stability and safety and then stability again. You should come with me, Issa says, bringing me out of my memory and back to the beach. He knows that I can't. I am not like Issa. I am good at taking an extra piece of bread at Gaddah, at talking too loudly and too quickly about movie stars. I am not good at defying Baba. You should care about our country too, he says. I do, I say, but what I mean is that I care about my brother and my Baba and my mama, and I just want to live in a country where we can all have dinner again without shouting about our president or rebels and revolution. Last summer, Fatima and I met a girl who was from Damascus. Her name was Samira, but she told us to call her Sammy, which was what her friend from London called her. London, she said. Did we know where that was? We said yes, which was true and not true. I've heard of London, but I wouldn't know how to get there. Sammy pronounced the word London like Mary Poppins does in the movie, and I almost laughed. But then I realized she wasn't trying to be funny. She was being posh, which is an English word she taught me. Sammy's family had lots of money. She was staying at the hotel right by the sea that has the fancy white chairs that are shaded with fancy white canopies. The kind of hotel that Issa hates, but I secretly like and dream about staying at one day. I picture myself as a famous actress coming home to visit, sitting on one of those fancy white chairs, reading a glossy magazine with my face on the cover. The hotel where Sammy was staying is right around the corner from Baba's store, where he sells candy bars and soft drinks and magazines to the tourists. His prices are much better than at the shops in the fancy hotels. Sammy was picking out a candy bar when she heard Fatima and me talking near the back of the store. Fatima and I like to hang out at Baba's store. Sometimes he gives us free Fanta, sometimes free chips. And there are always interesting people coming and going, especially in the summer. If we don't cause too much trouble, Baba lets us hang around. He would never admit it, but I think he actually likes when we come to visit him. You like American movies? Sammy said to us in English. She'd heard Fatima and me talking, so I knew she spoke Arabic, but she wanted us to know she also spoke English. Yes, Fatima said loudly back to her in English, even though Fatima's accent is not as good as mine. Baba gave us a warning glance from behind the counter, and we all slunk further down the aisle behind the Kit Kats and the M&Ms. Which films do you like? She asked, again in English. Fatima looked to me. My English has always been better than hers. Miss Congeniality, Runaway Bride, Legally Blonde, Practical Magic, Pretty Woman. The last two we weren't supposed to watch because witches and prostitutes scare Mama and Auntie Amal, but Issa bought us those movies from a store in our neighborhood that sells recordings of American movies. We hid the tapes in a box behind a pile of clothes that I don't wear anymore. Sammy frowned at us. Later, I would realize this was the moment she decided Fatima and I were not posh. You like old movies. We gave her a blank stare and she said, What about? She listed lots of movie titles we had never heard of. Later that summer, Sammy took Fatima and me to the movie theater that is right downtown by the fancy new shops that were built just for the tourists. Fatima and I had never been to that movie theater or any movie theater, and we tried to pretend not to be stunned by the soft red velvet seats that are so dense you can make a handprint in the fabric, or the wide, flat white screen that is larger than anything I'd ever seen. We watched a new American movie, and I didn't recognize any of the movie stars. They talked so fast, and I spent most of the time trying to keep up with the subtitles that rolled across the bottom of the screen. Afterward, Sammy said, See, now you will be able to talk about a movie that isn't 100 years old. I smiled and didn't tell Sammy that I still liked Miss Congeniality better. Today, the air is so soupy that it feels like I'm living inside someone else's mouth. I wake up at the sound of the first dawn, the muezzin's voice echoing through my room, but I do not get up to pray. Instead, I roll over and press my face into my pillow and pray for cool air and sleep. When I get up, Mama is in the kitchen brewing tea. She has set out large chunks of feta and slightly toasted pitas. She toasts them right on the open flame in our kitchen. I know that everyone's mother makes them this way, but I still cannot imagine doing it myself one day. It seems so bold, so brave. It is playing with fire. Baba has already left for work. In the summer, his store has extended hours. In the summer, he is a ghost that I do not see. I only know he exists by the footsteps I hear in the early mornings and late evenings. Mama is telling Issa to eat. She is telling him not to go to the march that is planned for today. Life is good. We should not tempt fate, Mama says. Life is not good for everyone. You only think it is good because that is what you've been told. You need to open your eyes, Issa says. I stretch my eyes as wide as I can. I want him to laugh, but he just shakes his head. I used to be able to make him laugh, but not anymore. I have not heard him laugh in ages. We live in a town where most people do not speak ill of our president, but my brother does. So do his friends who attend the local university. They have ideas about how the world should be. Issa says he wants to live in a country where anyone can be anyone they want to be. I don't understand what my brother means when he says this. I wish I understood exactly what my brother wants to be. Our president's family grew up in the mountains to the north of us, and if you listen carefully, you can hear the whispers rolling down the mountains telling us to stay quiet and be grateful. The president's ancestors are powerful spirits. We live in a town that needs tourists. Revolution and war are not good for business. But my brother doesn't care. My brother, who no longer will imitate Reese Witherspoon or sing Whitney Houston with me, my brother wants to see things change, and I just want to hear him laugh again. Mama forbids me to leave our apartment on the day of the protest. She tries to forbid Issa, but of course he does not listen. I sit on the couch by the small window and look out into the courtyard. It is as quiet as always, maybe even more quiet. The two benches are empty. The one potted plant of mint has grown out of control. It smells like strong tea and is spilling out of its container, taking over everything around it. No one knows how the mint got there. Someone should do something about that. But everyone is waiting for someone else to do it. We are still waiting. I stare at the window of Fatima's apartment. I keep thinking I will see her sitting by the glass, listening, watching, and waiting, just like me. But I don't see her. I pace back and forth by the window. Sometimes I think I can hear the protests. I stretch my ears for miles and miles, itching to catch a sound of the angry students with their signs, imagining my brother's face red and angry, chanting about freedom and democracy, words that I know but don't quite understand. I know my brother is shouting for his country, but I also feel like he is shouting at Baba. I do not think Baba is listening. I am sitting next to Baba at his store. He has never told me that he likes when I visit, but I think he does because whenever I come, there is always another stool sitting next to his, empty, waiting. Today is a good day because Baba is letting me eat a candy bar from his shop. I am trying to eat it slowly to savor it, but instead I eat it all in 4 quick bites. Is this what your brother wants? My head jerks up, surprised by the sound of my father's voice, surprised he is asking me a question. He hands me a newspaper. The front page is filled with awful pictures of people who are bloodied and cowering together in their city, which has been torn apart by war. He wants these violent maniacs to take over? My father shoves the paper closer to me. I do not touch the paper. I avoid it like a hot plate that will burn me. I look away from the pictures. I don't want to see them. I don't want to think about them later tonight when I am trying to fall asleep. I know that Issa and his friends are different from those men who spill blood and manipulate the Quran to say things that the rest of us know it does not say. Baba has to know that too. And I move my lips to tell him, but I cannot make myself say the words. I am not brave like my brother. Take it, he says, and he is no longer asking me. I hold the newspaper in my hands, and it feels heavy for something made only of paper. You can keep it. If your brother has his way, there will be no one left in this town who can afford to buy a paper anymore anyway. I clutched the newspaper, wishing that he had given me a different gift, like another candy bar. After the protests, there are more police. It seems like everywhere you go, the butcher, the beach, at school, there is an armed policeman. There are whispers of people who were rounded up after the protests and locked in jail. There are louder whispers about a town nearby where men with stolen tanks and stolen weapons rolled in and took over. Those men are now fighting against the government's army, and the people who live in the town don't know whose side to choose. They only want the violence to stop. Nobody knows which side is the right one anymore. When I go with Mama to the spice shop to refill her containers of coriander and za'atar, Mama makes a big show out of bowing her head in the direction of the framed portrait of our president. But when we get home and she is spreading the spice rub over the lamb legs, she talks to my brother, who is finally home for a dinner. I know this is not what you expected, she says. Her hands massage the meat. The whole kitchen fills with the earthy scent of herbs. You were not wrong to want better. Issa sits at the table. He is having a sronier to hold him over until dinner is ready. He rips a piece of pita bread in half. I know, he says, and his eyes meet mine, an invitation, a dare. I am not going to stop wanting better. He rips the bread into smaller and smaller pieces. This is not the end. It is only the beginning. Our town used to be a place for people to laugh and enjoy all the things that unite them, like family and sunshine and the sea and good food, not the things that divide them, like opinions and political loyalties. But now everyone wants to know where you stand, what you think, what you believe. When you walk around town, you had better show deference to our president, to his large picture that is in almost every shop, and the armed guards that are now on every corner. If you don't, you will be asked if you would rather live in one of those other towns that are no longer under our president's control, towns where families huddle together in rubble and there is no running water and electricity, but a whole lot of blood. I still smile at everyone in the street. Not everyone smiles back, though. When they don't, I want to say, you don't have to worry about me. I'm just a girl who likes movies. At first, when my brother moves out, I am forbidden from going to his new apartment. Children are not supposed to move out until they finish university, Mama says, as she folds the shirts that Issa left behind, neatly leaving them in his drawer like she is preparing for him to move back in tomorrow. Baba, as expected, does not say anything about my brother moving out, but I catch him glancing in the direction of my brother's now empty room when he doesn't think anyone is watching. I ask every day if I can visit my brother, and every day the answer is no. Until one day when Mama says yes, and she walks with me the 7 blocks across town to his new apartment, which is near the local university and all of the cafes that Baba thinks are full of radicals. Mama does not go inside, but I see her lingering outside, watching me climb down the steps into the basement where my brother now lives, into an entirely new world. His new apartment is covered with a tapestry of mismatched rugs, a scratched coffee table sits low to the ground, and it is covered with stacks of newspapers that have been marked up with a pen. Names have been circled, crossed out, and amended. It feels like a place where ideas live. There's an energy in the room that excites and frightens me. There are so many faces, girls and boys. Issa introduces me to everyone. I do not know how I do not know which faces actually live in this place and which faces are only visiting, like me. There is a loud knock at the door, and soon my brother's basement apartment is filled with armed police. There is shouting, glasses knocked to the ground, bodies shoved against walls, the sounds of handcuffs clicking, more shouting. In the chaos, my brother reaches for my hand. He pulls me with him down a hallway, up a flight of stairs, out a door. When we are outside, I let out one long gasp. Don't be afraid, Jude, he says. I wouldn't let anything happen to you. But my knees won't stop shaking. They could have taken you, I say, my voice trembling. He squeezes my hand again. It feels like some sort of promise, an assurance that he won't leave me all alone. Mama knows what happened before Issa even brings me home. She clings to both of us and makes a sound I have never heard before. It sounds like terror, like primal relief. They could have taken you, she says, still squeezing us both tightly. It is exactly what I said to Issa. There is an Arabic proverb that says, the offspring of ducks float. It means all children end up like their parents. I guess I'm starting to float. After the raid on Issa's apartment, my mama, who has never been afraid of anything, suddenly is squeezing my hand tight when we walk to the market, pulling me close to her at every corner, looking 10 times before we cross the street. I watch her when she makes dinner. She does everything a little slower than she used to. It's like there is now a blinking caution light inside of her. Even Baba checks the lock on the door twice every night, rubs Mama's shoulders more than he used to, though I'm not sure if that's to make her or him feel better. Maybe both. I hear them late at night, whispering back and forth to one another. I can't always make out the actual words, but I can feel them, taste them. They taste like fear. I stare up at the ceiling of my room. I wonder where my brother is, if he's staring up at his ceiling in his new apartment, if he's afraid like me, if he's afraid at all. When Mama first tells me, it's just us sitting at the kitchen table, sharing a snack of feta cheese and olives. It's only a visit, she says, to see my brother. My heart drops into my stomach. Her brother lives an ocean away in America. We have never visited him because it is not an easy place to visit. It is a long trip, an expensive one. It is not a trip you would take for no reason. We are leaving, I challenge her. I look in her eyes, demanding she tell me the truth. Sunlight streams in through the cracks in the blinds. She used to leave our windows all the way open during the day. Only for a little while, she admits, and I can tell she wants to believe what she is saying. She wants to believe it for both of us. What about Baba? I ask, and watch Mama's big dark eyes fill up with tears. What about Issa? The tears spill over. She tells me that Baba has to stay because he will not leave the store. She tells me that Issa will not leave. I wish he would, she says, holding out her hand to me, and I know she means it to be comforting, that we both wish this, but it only makes my heart hurt more. Why do we have to go? Her eyes are still wet. She squeezes my hand tighter. I'm sorry, Habibti, but I cannot wait for things to get worse. We cannot take the risk. But things might not get worse, I argue. I am thinking of everything I heard that night in Issa's basement, ideas about hope and freedom. Mama puts her hand on her stomach. Jude, she says, I need you. I need you, she repeats, to help us. My eyes study her hand, her belly, the rise and fall of her breath, and all of a sudden I see all the pieces and how they fit. My eyes are still watery, but I smile. A baby? I say because I am worried that if it's not said out loud, it won't be true. Nunu, she confirms. I slide out of my chair and snuggle up to her belly, pressing my ear against the soft fabric of her dress, and I swear I hear a heartbeat. I am learning how to be sad and happy at the same time. It is our last day, and I am supposed to be packing. Fatima and Auntie Amal have come over to say goodbye. I wanted to have a big party, but Mama said no. She said there is no need to make a big fuss when we will be back soon. But the way she says soon, with the click of her tongue, makes it sound like a wish instead of the truth. Even though we aren't having a big party, Auntie Amal still brought me sweets from Ches Mariana, which is my favorite bakery. Mariana went to Paris to study, and her bakery is filled with tarts stuffed full of creams and cakes that look like they belong in a fashion magazine. Mama says that only tourists would pay Mariana's prices for cake. Mama says the word cake like it's just an ordinary food, which is strange since everyone knows that cakes are made of magic. I am on my second slice of cake, my hand sticky with the vanilla bean icing, when Fatima says, You won't forget me, will you? I laugh and my knees go weak, so I sit on the floor, but Fatima swats at me. Don't laugh, she says, and her voice cracks, thick with emotion, driving a rushing river between us, with her on one side and me on the other bank. I want to swim back toward her, but for the first time ever, I'm not sure how. When I look into her movie star like eyes, I see real worry. I couldn't forget you even if I wanted to. Fatima gives me her take me seriously face. She always wants me to be serious. She likes dramas where people fall in and out of love and into love, where they cry and sigh and cry some more. I like comedies where people laugh and then laugh some more. No one ever tells people in comedies to grow up. Fatima walks over to my bed and sticks her head in one of the boxes that I haven't sorted yet. She picks up two scarves, one for each fist, and waves them like she is at the finish line of a race. Are you going to bring these? What she wants to ask is, are you going to wear these in America? Are you going to grow up without me? I take the scarves from her, one by one, and neatly place them in the one bag Mama has given me to pack up my whole life. What would you like to eat? She asked me in English, and we both laugh. How are you doing today? She says, a broad smile on her face. For years now, we have practiced English phrases. I wonder if speaking English in America will be anything like speaking English here at school. I wonder if anything about America will be like it is here. I'll write to you every day, I say. Promise? I nod, and that river that rushed between us before begins to dry up. Even though I know I am leaving and she is staying, it feels like we're standing on the same shore again. When I say goodbye to Baba, he hugs me tight, his arms saying everything that his lips don't. His tight embrace tells me to be good and listen to Mama. His tight embrace tells me that he is going to miss us a lot. My brother has come over to say goodbye, too. It is all four, five, my mind corrects, of us in the same room, and I wonder when, if, it will ever be like this again. Issa picks me off the ground and twirls me around when he sets me back down. He gives me a wide smile, the type of smile I haven't seen on his face in a very long time. The type of smile he used to wear when he would spend hours reciting movies and singing along to Madonna and Whitney. I don't understand how you can be so happy, I say. I'm leaving. I say the second part in case my brother forgot, because recently he's been forgetting a lot of things: to come home for dinner, to pick up the phone when we call, to let us know that he's okay. I see Issa smile falter a little, and somehow this makes me happy. A little. Aren't you going to miss me? I ask. He pulls me close and whispers, Akid. But you're going to have so much fun in America. It's going to be an adventure. He must be able to tell I'm about to argue with him because he kisses the top of my head. Then he brings his face close to mine and whispers in my ear, Be brave. My knees lock and I'm about to tell him I don't know how to do that. But then I see Baba embracing Mama. He is gently patting her stomach, and I have never seen Baba look so proud and so worried all at the same time. And that's when I realize I don't have a choice. I'm going to have to learn how to be brave. We're all going to have to learn. All right, you all. So that is part one of Other Words for Home. Make sure you check in next time. We'll be reading part two. Thanks for joining.